Well, I guess we can go ahead and officially start. We've got a decent number of people here in Zoom and a slightly growing crowd there in Lone Tree. Since we were talking about guests, I will chat with the guest folks right now. Let's start with Lone Tree. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your photography, how you found the club, what you might expect to get out of the club, etc.?
My name's Joe. I'm totally just a hobby. um, Mainly doing a lot of just when I can, when I travel, like to do some more, but life gets in the way, so I don't get out as much as I'd like. And found you guys online, so I thought I'd give it a shot. It's kind of in the opposite direction of where I live. I'm up in Arvada, so
Oh, wow.
that'd be a journey.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Well, we have Zoom almost all the time, so, if the drive is a bit much or whatever, you can join us by Zoom too.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, welcome, sir, and I hope you enjoy our presentation this evening. And Laura, welcome back. Appreciate you having here.
Glad to be here.
All right. On Zoom, I see that we have a few new folks. Mark, I'm going to ask you to pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it.
It's Rock Kind.
Rock Kind. Very good, sir.
Yeah. I'm in a place where it's hard for me to give you a visual, but I'll be home soon. I heard about the club from Steve Wilton. We're members of the Flatiron Club in Boulder. And I benefit from using my camera. I find that sometimes a long period goes by and I haven't used it, and the photo clubs get me taking photographs. That's number one. Number two, the criticism makes me better at it, and so then it's more fun. So I'm technically a guest, but I already joined and paid my money and submitted my portfolio and everything. So I hope to have some photographs on the 27th.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I got obviously got your emails today and replied to you and everything. So as soon as I get verification from Cecilia about payments and forms and all that good stuff, we can get you going. But we should be able to get you set into the competition group before the competition and get your images in there. And another new member we have here is Jim.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I just joined. I attended the session about negative space, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was really excellent. So I'm glad to be a part of this. I sent my membership dues in today. I still got to get the photographs together, and yeah, real happy to be here. Thank you. And I'm up by Erie, so yeah, I kind of chickened out with driving down there. So
Totally understand that. You do get a pass for this evening, that's for sure.
cool.
But during the summertime, maybe you want to come join us.
Yes.
The more the merrier.
Yep.
Well, we're glad to have you, sir. You picked a good night to attend the competition. We did have some excellent images in there, and of course, Trish, in my estimation, is one of our better judges, and she gave a whole lot of great information. So glad you enjoyed it and glad you're here.
Yeah, it's excellent. It really was. Yeah.
Monica, if you would unmute and basically had the same questions for you, how you found us, what kind of photography you do, things like that.
Yeah, hello everybody. I actually joined, maybe it was last week or the week prior, about the negative space. Really enjoyed that. I'm actually newer to photography. I purchased a lens from Gwen. I don't see her on tonight. I don't have her last name, otherwise I would share that. Who introduced me to the group. And so again, I just recently purchased or picked up photography probably about a year ago. I do a lot of youth sports because my children are in youth, and so that's excelled quite quickly. And so yeah, I wanted to check out this group again.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you here. Well, no matter how you found us, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation this evening.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, I'm scanning the group here, and I think I got everybody covered. So the only other announcement really that I have is competition in 2 weeks. Our subject matter is shot with a phone. So we'll be looking for images, obviously, shot with your phone. They can be edited any way you want, whether you use a piece of software in your smartphone or you pull them in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever you want to do, but they must originate from your phone. And hopefully everybody takes on that challenge. We do normally have a number of people who submit phone images in our competitions. They've scored very well. So I'm looking forward to seeing all kinds of great stuff from y'all.
It's a better place to see.
Okay.
Any other announcements, Carl?
I don't have anything else. So yeah, Terry, I will turn it over to you. And if I'm assuming you're doing the introductions and everything tonight.
I am.
Very good.
We welcome tonight's presenter, Rick Hulbert. Rick is an international award-winning and published architect, urban designer, and photographer who resides in Vancouver, BC. As a photographer, he has been named a laureate within the worldwide Nikonian community. He was one of only 2 photographers from North America to be invited to participate in the World Art Games held in Bratislava, Slovakia. Rick's photography is informed by his background as a professional architect and urban designer. If you visit his photo gallery on his website, and I really urge you to do so, you can see his clear love of architectural and urban landscape images. There, you can also be inspired by his mastery of conveying depth in striking colors. If you heard Rick's other presentations to our club, you have a sense of the thoughtfulness and dedication he brings to his teaching. Rick has led photo workshops in Europe and North America and has taught photography at institutions of higher education. His teachings reflect his knowledge of both the history of the two-dimensional arts of drawing and painting, along with the science of human vision. Tonight, we're fortunate to have Rick tell us some of the whens, whys, and hows of capturing and editing black and white images. With that, I'll turn it over to Rick. Oh, by the way, Rick has a lot to tell us, so he's going to take a full 90 minutes from this moment.
Well, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I'm, as was mentioned, I'm up in Vancouver, Canada, so I have elected not to drive in tonight, only because of the weather conditions. Otherwise, I'd love to be with you guys. So what I'm going to do is start off by sharing my screen. I've got an interesting topic, okay? Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the Lure of Luminance. It has to do with why black and white photography can at times be so very compelling. When I started photographing, the vast majority of images were all done in black and white. And now, of course, it's reversed. It's mostly all color. But so I ended up enjoying black and white. And then I went through a phase where I was trying to figure out why would I ever want to shoot in black and white? So I'm going to try to cover both kind of the rational, logical side of answering that question, as well as the artistic and creative side. I'm going to start off in a very unconventional way for a black and white presentation by declaring that I personally love color. Color is, that's how it's spelled in Canada, okay? But I love color. And here's the actual full scene where I've enhanced the reflection in the water. This is actually in Vancouver. It's the cruise ship terminal, minus a cruise ship, okay? But yeah, I enjoy color. This was kind of a breakthrough in my understanding of black and white when I was photographing the shoreline in Chicago a number of years ago. Okay, and this kind of previewed my realization of why I might really appreciate black and white photography, and I'm going to kind of talk about that tonight. I went back again 3 years after that last photograph. I was teaching there both times, giving workshops, and I wanted to go to this same location where I can see the shoreline standing on terra firma. There was a storm coming, okay? Just to be sympathetic to you guys. This was a rainstorm, and as soon as I clicked the shutter, I'm seeing the skies opened up. It was unbelievable wetness. But you know, you go through that when you're a photographer. You never know. You never know what you're going to get. But after I got home, I did what I started doing more often than not, was kind of converting some of my images to black and white, trying to figure out, you know, when that makes sense. So I'm going to show you the black and white conversion here to this image. So look at the cloud. I mean, just the cloud itself, you can look, it's hard to look at an image with everything at once, but if you look at the cloud, here's before, and then I'm going to show you after. Huge difference. I mean, for me, the expression I was using at the time, and please don't take offense, was that I can taste the cloud, right? It's like, for me, it was like an incredible change. And that's what got me going. That's what started me on over the last few years of doing a ton of research, a lot of experimentation on trying to determine why black and white could be compelling. When would that happen, and why would that happen? So I thought I would start off by looking up the master photographers, you know, the traditional master photographers, see what they say. A lot of them were black and white photographers, and surely they would have described somewhere why they enjoy black and white, because obviously it's not normal for most people. And I'll read these first three to start with. Here's Cartier-Bresson. You've heard of him. Color negates all of photography's three-dimensional values. Color is bullshit. Those aren't my words. Those are Cartier-Bresson's words. And if I was with him, I would say, well, Henri, don't hold back. Tell us what you really think. Then Walker Evans, you probably heard of him. There are 4 simple words for the matter, which must be whispered. Color photography is vulgar. Oh, that really is interesting. A reason why you would use black and white. And then finally, Ted Grant, Canadian photographer. He's considered the father of Canadian photojournalism, for what it's worth. Real photographers shoot in black and white. Well, the problem with these justifications are they don't tell us why they like black and white. They just dump on color, which is like not that great. I'm not impressed. Okay, Picasso takes it, you know, a little easier. He says colors are only symbols, and reality is to be found in lightness alone. Okay, I would love to have a conversation with him. It's too late to do that, but you know what I'm saying. How about a Leica monochrome ad? Monochrome sensors only photographing color, and I'll talk briefly about the advantage of those. But color is crass and unnecessary. Color aids people without imagination. Oh, really? In the color world, there's no space for dreams. Again, here's Leica just crapping all over color to market their monochrome sensor. Here's one that kind of I can start to buy into. Hugh Brownstone, he had a video presentation that I watched, and I'm quoting, "I grew up with black and white, newspapers, TV, abstractions, no chromatic aberration, okay, and texture and tonality." So he's hitting kind of key buttons there. And okay, I can see that could be a reason for black and white. So I'm going to ask the question here. I'm the only one talking right now, but I thought, what are examples of two-dimensional black and white art forms? And so far, over the last few years, these are all I've collected: pen and ink sketches, charcoal drawings, pencil sketches, various forms of printmaking, textiles, some mixed media, and of course, photography. But I don't really have any more to add to the list. If you do, you please let me know. You send me an email, or after the talk is over, we have kind of a question and discussion period. You can give me some suggestions of what I can add to this list. Okay. Come back to the question, why is black and white photography at times so compelling? So here's some reasons. It's iconic, timeless. It conveys a sense of heritage, recollection, nostalgia, simplicity. It's really tough to date a black and white image. It's the traditional film look. Now, by the way, there is a way today to get the look of film, and that's using something called using something called film, because film is still being produced. It's a problem solving. Some people feel it's a problem solving solution for bad light, or competing or distracting colors or light sources. I'm going to come back to the rest in a moment, but Daniel Gregory, well-known photographer, suggests that black and white is not a consolation prize. That's the result of trying to convert a lousy color photograph into something interesting. So if we continue with this list, dramatic highlights, shadows, textures, shapes, ambiguity, mood, mystery, yeah, I buy into all that. Departure from reality, absolutely. Couldn't be much further from reality. Fosters viewers' imagination. Stands out amongst color series continuity. So if you're in a gallery and there's a series of images on the wall and they're all color except for one, people are going to want to look at that black and white one, okay? Regardless of its quality, just because it stands out. And then finally here, there are people that feel that black and white means that it's going to be fine art. That's not the case. I don't want to disappoint anybody. That is absolutely not the case. And the reason they start to think that way is because some manufacturers of software actually suggest that black and white photography is the supreme discipline for fine art. No, that's not the case. I think in some of the literature that you guys had to look at for why you might want to show up here is 10 reasons to shoot in black and white. Now, notice it says shoot for black and white, not in black and white. Okay, there's a reason for that. We'll get to that. But here are all 10. You can take a screenshot of that if you're on your computer. And this is being taped, so you guys can go back and look at some of the words, because I'm going to show you. I know that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but I think a great phrase can be worth 1,000 pictures. Please don't leave, okay? Words can be important. In any event, drama, emphasizing contrast. That's definitely a reason. Subtle grays, where you have delicate transitions between shades. High key, where you're emphasizing areas of higher brightness. Low key imaging, where you have an emphasis on high contrast in a majority of a dark, otherwise darkness. Line and shape, strong emphasis on contrasting edges. Modeling and depth, you get kind of a potential roundness and volume via gradient lighting. Continuity, in other words, if you do have a series of images and they're all black and white, they will kind of hang together, if I can say it that way, almost irregardless of the subject matter, but that's another story. And then the last three deal with corrective problem solving. So there are people that definitely feel, and there's some merit to it, that if you have weak colors or you have distracting colors or harsh light, that black and white can help. As an architectural photographer, I can tell you there were times where I'd be inside of a building with like 3 or 4 different kinds of light sources. Sunlight coming through the window, fluorescent fixtures, incandescent fixtures. I mean, it's crazy. And, you know, honestly, I can admit sometimes black and white was the easy way out. Okay. Continuing on, for reasons to shoot for black and white, as opposed to in black and white, even acknowledging a newish specialist trend towards monochrome sensors, digital black and white starts with the color information collected in the Bayer filter in front of the sensor, and this influences shooting in two major ways. One is that you can turn any color into any tone, which liberates your interpretation, and as Ansel Adams used to say, hugely, okay? The other is that you can decide whether the shot is going to be black and white at any time during your shooting, even years later. So it's hardly surprising that with all the choices, there's a more pressing need than ever to have your own good creative reasons for doing this conversion. Much can be written about the pros and cons of black and white photos. For me, monochromatic isn't just style, and it's not meant to be nostalgic or even arty. It simplifies an image, and that is something I'm going for. It removes distractions and that pull you away from what I want you to see. This is Michael Rubin. He is a cinematographer with Lucasfilm, but this is quite a good quote too. I learn a lot from words, okay? Also, also quoting Michael Rubin, it's also a tacit reminder that the image is a creative object, an abstraction by its very definition, and not a capture of objective reality. And as you manipulate the grayscale pretty widely, as you can manipulate the grayscale pretty widely for effect, without triggering the viewer into feeling the image is weird, okay, color does not have the same latitude. There's generally one right set of colors, and if red was made green, the photo would look unusual. Not so in grayscale. So why do they call it black and white? That's because the early black and white images of this was arguably the first, okay, only included essentially black and white with almost no gray. And in this case, this is almost a 200-year-old image, and it took 8 hours to capture. It's a long exposure. So long exposure is not new. You probably know that. This is a photo that I made. This is an old fort. I love buildings that are disintegrating, that are falling apart. I think in part because when I look in the mirror, that's what I see. But I found this building. I got there really early. This is in Italy, on the border between France and Italy. And luckily there were nobody around, because I didn't want people in this kind of a scene myself. But I'll show you a couple of shots here and admit to you that if my mother were still alive, she'd be looking at this image and say, well, Ricky, you should have swept the floor. We got to clean it up. And I would say, no, are you kidding? This is the expression, I call this chach. Now, that's a word that I made up, okay? But it's all the stuff that creates the setting here. There are times when you don't want to clean up before you make the photo. So I'm going to cut right to the punchline now. We're going to talk a lot about this punchline, but I want to give it to you early in the presentation rather than you sitting there waiting. When is he going to tell us about luminance? All right. So this is about luminance and its importance to photographers and photography. Luminance is a measure of lightness. It's how bright the average human judges a light to be. So it's a subjective thing, okay? Luminance is determined by how sensitive our eyes are to a particular color of light. And this is one of the most important slides. I got this quote from Margaret Livingstone, who's a professor of neurobiology at Harvard Medical School. And she has a book on vision and art, the biology of seeing. Now, I know it's science, and you guys want to be artists, or you are artists, but sometimes science We can learn a lot from science, okay? Understanding luminance is important because our perception of depth, three-dimensionality, and spatial organization all are carried by a part of our visual system that responds only to luminance differences and is insensitive to color. We do not see depth in color. Color contains luminance, very difficult to see. Pure luminance is black and white, as we call it black and white, okay? Luminance and importance to photographers and photography, okay? Luminance, which we're going to argue is combination of lightness or brightness or tone, okay? Luminance defines shapes. Luminance defines textures. Luminance defines lines. On its own, the difference in luminance or brightness or lightness when applied to a grayscale is relatively easy to see. So if you look at this effectively zone system, right, from black to white, from left to right, you can probably see different shades. Now, if you can't see the shades, don't worry. Each of my computer's putting out a signal. You guys are picking up a signal. We all see differently, but essentially, most people could see different shades of what we call gray, from black to white. Okay. Now, when color is present, distinguishing luminance is as important to a photographer as distinguishing higher and lower musical tones to a musician. Here's the problem. You can't really see luminance that easily when color is present. And what this quote is suggesting is that really learning to be able to see luminance is as important as distinguishing between higher and lower musical tones to a musician. Now, I've been a professional musician as well. So when I saw that, I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to admit to you, I'm still learning to figure out how to see luminance in color. It's not easy. I'll give you some examples, but we'll talk about that. Here's one example. Here are 4 colors. I'm going to call them blue, green, mustard, and I don't know, what should I call that? It's not pink. It's I can't even think of the word right now, but you can see what it is. Look at the luminance levels directly below. They're pretty close. Not easy to differentiate between those 4. Okay. If we change the color just a little bit, I'll make the blue a little lighter, the green a little darker, the mustard a little yellower. Somebody,
Let's call it rose.
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say. Hopefully, sorry. Oh my gosh. I discovered that I'm having trouble at my age remembering words that start with a capital letter. Names of things. In any event, I'll think of it eventually. So here we have 4 distinct colors. You can see them. I don't have to name them, do I? You can see them, okay? But cyan. Cyan is the color I'm thinking of, okay? So purple and reddish, yellow and cyanish, okay? If we take, and we go into Photoshop, and we take the saturation slider, and we move it all the way to the left. In other words, we're going to eliminate saturation. So we won't see color. We're going to see the different tones here in these 4 colors. And there they are. That's a good example of why it's not easy to recognize tonal differences. Because we have equal tonal value, equal lightness, and equal luminance. And it's like gray, one gray. Here's another one. Here are these 6 colors. You know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to desaturate all 6 colors. That's what we get. Yeah, they're arguing that the top 6 colors are pure colors, and when we maximized, we actually they're at maximum saturation. But even at maximum saturation, the tonal values are totally equal. Okay, here's a famous painting, Claude Monet. This is called Impressions Sunrise. I'm going to convert it to black and white. Okay, what happened to the sun? You know what I'm trying to say? It's hard to know in advance when you're looking at a scene what you're going to get. Color gradients alone do not evoke a sense of depth. Even the slightest amount of luminance contrast creates an illusion of depth. So here's what I want to show you. If you look at the image on the right, now if you're in the room with the projection, you may not see this. You're kind of looking at what is almost like a bubble coming out of the surface of that piece of paper on the right. That's the message. That's if we converted the picture on the left to tone. Okay. Here's another example. Here's a color picture. What if it was just color only without any luminance? There's very little or no sense of depth. That's the same picture in black and white. I'm not saying you should like the picture or not. I'm just giving you examples, okay? Here's another picture. I made this picture in Boston, okay? So I was on the top of a parking garage. Parking garages are great places to shoot from. And you're kind of above the crowds down below. And, you know, I thought this was a nice urban scene. And the question is, knowing when and why black and white will portray an enhanced sense of depth. So here's the scene in color. Here's the scene in black and white. Did you see a difference? I mean, look, here's the scene in pure color. Pure color. No luminance. All right. Here's the scene in color and luminance together. And finally, the scene just luminance only. So you hopefully got my message. Enhanced sense of depth, three-dimensionality. Okay. Now, when a three-dimensional object is illuminated by a light source, different parts of its surface reflect different amounts of light, depending on the angle of the light. Again, this is Margaret Livingstone. Okay, I learned from her. This is viewed as shading. See, shading or luminance. So you don't have to use the fancy word luminance. Shading is important, right? This is an awesome wall made up of sheet metal, okay, over the years. I'm going to zoom in to show you how even on a relatively flat wall with layers of sheet metal, these layers are kind of starting to pop out. And it's all because of the luminance. It's the shading. Even look at the nail heads. You'll see the little nails that are holding the sheet, the corrugated metal to the wooden wall behind, okay? And you can see the depth of the nail with the shading, the head, and the depth of the nail head. It's quite amazing. And it's quite cool. When you realize it, it'll affect what you photograph. You know, this is where macro photography can be so exciting. You can start seeing things that are there. And the beauty of photography is once you learn photography, you start to see more than other people that don't practice photography. You can go on a holiday experience or just walk down the street without a camera. I know that's hard to do, but if you do that without a camera, you're going to see more. You're going to remember more. You're going to appreciate more than people that aren't aware of the benefits of photography. So if you want to learn to see in black and white, one way to do it is to take a scene like this color scene and recognize that black and white, let me say it this way. The human spectral response is closest to panatomic X film. Remember panatomic X film? Some of you, I know you guys, a lot of you guys are pretty young, but some of you will remember panatomic X. Well, it's discontinued. They don't make it anymore, but there's software, you're probably aware, where you can get the look of film. So I invested in that, and I've got panatomic X in my digital camera, if I can put it that way. And that's what the scene looks like in black and white. But now what I can do is I can start playing with the color data, okay, the color data that's in this image. And let's just look at the sky as an example, okay? So there's the sky Same sky, but in black and white. But now I can play with that data and look at the difference in the sky. I played with the data in this whole image to give it a greater sense of depth. Now, it's subtle. It's not like hit you in the head, but that is the difference. That's what makes it arguably in the right direction for a good experience for black and white photography. Now, artists, great artists of the past, and maybe of the present as well, but they could see luminance really well. And here's an example. This is a color painting. And when I show you the black and white version, you're going to see that the sense of depth is basically there in the color. 3, 2, 1. See that? That's amazing. To have the black and white, other than color, because remember, color alone doesn't show luminance. That doesn't, color alone, it's hard to see the luminance in color. But these guys, or is one example here of Jean-Auguste Dominique, knew what they were doing with the colors they're using and how luminance was so important. So you've probably seen the visible spectrum. It shows what humans can see relative to color, the color range. It doesn't include luminance. Luminance is the third dimension. And there is a way to find a chart that would show luminance. I'm not going to show it to you. It's very difficult to read and understand. I just want you to know that luminance is kind of a third dimension of this chart. So when we talk about editing, I'm going to just give you a taste of a few things. You know that there's different color spaces. sRGB is the white triangle that's in this luminance diagram. And you see the larger black triangle is the Adobe color space. Okay? It's larger color space. There's more colors in Adobe color space. I'm going to suggest that you photograph in RAW to keep all the data. You photograph in color. You record using, and you edit using Adobe RGB color space. Okay? Here's why. More colors with more tonal values means that there's more variation in luminance. Okay. More variation in luminance means there's more potential for enhanced and perceived depth. So it's not just science. It's what you see. It's your perception. Now, there are people and companies promoting the notion of monochrome sensors, and there are advantages, so I'm going to tell you what they are. Arguably, 1 to 1.5 stops higher ISO. That's the sensitivity of the sensor. Okay. More dynamic range, less noise. Okay. Increased sharpness, resulting in enhanced detail. Arguably, you're photographing pure luminance. Okay, that's a plus. But there's some questions. I mean, some feel it's really a tool for the artist. I have a friend who's a professional photographer. He's a fine art photographer. Photographs in black and white. Has a monochrome sensor. Loves it. Arguing that although there are fewer features and fewer choices, he thinks it's a good thing. It limits his decision making. I'm not here to argue that. I'm just giving you, I want to give you different opinions, all right? For me, black and white is a finishing effect. That doesn't mean it's bad or negative. It means it's a great effect. And you get to, if you shoot in RAW, in color, you get to choose how you want to deal with the effect and when you want to deal with the effect. So another aspect, some thoughts on printing or projection or monitor display. There's a lot of ways to display images. Some people feel that it's not a photograph unless it's on paper. You know, I don't know. I enjoy digital photography, and I'm enjoying the digital world because it's like it's not going away. So I'm okay with projections or using a monitor or print. It's all great. But I'm recommending you record raw color data files, you expose to the right. You know what that means? It means on the histogram. You know what a histogram is? It shows the quantity of pixels from the very darkest to the very brightest. If the diagram, what I call a mountain range, is starting to climb either the right or left side of the histogram, it means you are either blowing highlights or you are clipping shadows. And I'm going to give you a demonstration as well. I'll show you what I mean with a real image, but I just want to at least say it to begin with. So I'm suggesting you process for color, but actually go beyond. Consider pumping up your image contrast greater than you normally would. Consider slightly oversaturating your image. And learn the effects of modifying luminance values in an HSL software panel, like in Lightroom Classic, now it's called Color Mixer Panel, but most software has the ability to do this. And recognize that color dictates contrast, okay? So if you want to, you could also consider playing with profiles or presets, or both. Like DxO Silver FX Pro. I don't teach using profiles. I don't teach using presets, okay? Because I want people to understand why things result the way they do. But that's just me. If you can find presets that you click on that you just love the solution, who am I to say you can't do that? There are no universally accepted rules of anything related to photography. You can use any gear, you can use any software, you can use any technique you want, and I'll be your friend. I am not a judge. I am an advocate. I am here to try to improve your photography. I've got to start somewhere, so I'm starting with basic black and white, okay? If you use something like Lightroom Classic, almost every panel affects luminance, okay? Well, your camera will come with profiles from the manufacturer. I try to pick a profile that minimizes color, not one that pumps up color, not like landscape or something called like that. Those profiles are designed to get people who are in a camera store excited about buying the camera because the picture looks really good, looks really punchy on the back of the camera when they test it out in the store, okay? But the basic panel, color temperature, presets, well, we'll talk about presets in a moment, masking, calibration, color mixer, tone curve, color grading, detail effects, all of them deal with color. You may not think so. Look at detail. People say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Sharpening deals is important for, it deals with color. Well, here's what it deals with contrast, okay? So if you sharpen an image, you're going to get higher contrast. That affects how it appears in black and white, okay? The calibration panel is fabulous. Most people don't use it. In Lightroom, it deals with saturating the actual RGB pixels in the original capture. Very powerful. And presets, I should tell you something. There are people that swear by DxO presets. The fellow that developed those original presets has been hired by Lightroom. And the presets that are in Lightroom are actually designed by the same guy. So you're getting like pretty much state-of-the-art presets for black and white in Lightroom if you want to try them. Okay, enough on that for now. So here's an example. This is a scene in Cuba. I gave a workshop there. It's a fabulous place to photograph. Not necessarily fabulous to live there, but it is wonderful to photograph. And this is actually the officers' quarters for the generals at one time, not anymore. But they lived a good life, okay? They were treated very well. In any event, it was high. I love high contrast scenes. direct sunlight, but very difficult to capture. So I bracket. I want two images. I want one that is as bright as possible without overexposing anything. And I want one that is so much brighter than the first one that there's no clip shadows. So let's look at the histograms. See the histogram on the left? Is a big mountain range and a flat area, but when it gets to the right, it comes down. It does not, the mountain comes down to the ground. It doesn't climb the right side, meaning there's no clipped highlights. I will not have any blown highlights. I'll get all the data. The picture on the left is so much brighter than the first, 3 stops brighter in this case, that look at the mountain range on the left there. Maybe my cursor, you see my cursor with the arrow, goes down to nothing. So there's no clipped shadows. In other words, I will get all the detail that I want out of the shadows, if I want them. So I take these 2 images, I put them into Lightroom, merge to HDR, and that's what I get. And that's what you will get. And people look at it and go, oh my God, that didn't work too well. It looks like caca, which is French. And anyway, in any event, what you do then is you have to edit it, okay? And when you edit it, you see how much more, it's on steroids. There's so much data in that I can create this image on the right from the raw file on the left. Now, the image on the right should look, to me, so I say it this way, to me, it looks a little bit oversaturated, okay? And that's on purpose, because I want to try to get as much color data as I can without being crazy about it, without just having color, off the charts. So then when I took the image on the right and I edited it for black and white by using all the panels that I showed you, tweaking them, playing with them, literally play sliders, move them all the way to the left, all the way to the right, just experiment, okay? I got this. That's my color image. I'm happy with that. I like it better than the one on the right. Now look at the ground plane. You see the texture of the ground on the left, how much more detail you see than the texture on the right. Now, it's not a huge difference, but there is a distinct difference. Look at the column detail on this column. You can see what the climate has done to it over the years, or the column on the right. Same column, just less sense of depth. Okay. So let's take an example. Ansel Adams, you probably heard of him. You see on the lower right, that was his original negative, and the upper left, that's what he did. Now, he didn't have software like we have. He would love for this. He would love to have what we have. But he's doing the same thing essentially. Okay, he's the same principles he's using. Try to create a negative where all the data is there, and then play with the data. Okay, so here's some examples. You see why it's hard to see luminance. We're looking at 2 gray squares. Now, for many people, the square on the left with the black background looks a little brighter than the square on the right with the white background. And if we remove the background, we'll see that actually the square on the left is darker than the one on the right, significantly when we put them next to each other. Not easy to see at first. So the context of the scene makes a huge difference, okay? The background of the subject you're photographing makes a big difference in the scene to how it's going to turn out. You see, we have these 2 big bands, wide bands of color, and then in between them, we got this little strip of gray, and it looks like the strip goes from dark on the left to light on the right. In fact, it's the same color gray, okay? It's the background is affecting how you see luminance, how you see the level of brightness. You see, in this picture here, we've got what looks like a sphere in the center. Subtle, but you can see it's a little darker down here at the bottom, a little lighter on top, and it's because of the background. Because if I just remove the background, okay, it's a disc. It's not a sphere. It's totally flat. and it's darker than you probably thought it was. This is really cool. This is a famous illusion. And some people say, oh, it's an illusion. That's not fair. You know what? Everything we see is an illusion. I don't want to give you guys nightmares. I'm just saying everything we see is an illusion of sorts because our brain is interpreting what we see on a number of variables. You know, if you grew up in the Sahara Desert or if you grew up in the rainforest, you're going to see differently. All right. You'll still recognize your mother and your father. Don't misunderstand me. It's not like a huge difference, but it's a difference. So here's what I'm going to show you. You see, this is a checkerboard. And yes, there's a green silo on the right there, that cylinder. That actually has nothing to do with it except for casting a shadow. Okay? So if I take these two bands of light at the bottom of the screen that came up and see, it's the same as square B. It's the same, right? The same color, same tone. If I take that, those two, I'm just going to keep exactly those two bands of light and pull them up to the top. And you see, it's also the same as square A. Well, square A and square B look a lot different from each other in terms of tone. I'm going to show you something here. I think I'm going to do it on the next slide. Yeah, I'm going to show you this. Okay, you see this slide here. I'm going to zoom in. This tone is movable. Now I'm going to move it up here on B. Can you see it's the same tone? It merges in there. It's the same tone as B. Hopefully you agree with me. Watch this. It's the same one. I'm not changing it. It's magic. It's the same as A. That's every time I do this, I think, holy cow, that's amazing. It's the same. It's the same. Okay. Our eyes are making an assumption because of the shadow. This is what I mean by an illusion. Okay, let's go back. Come on. Okay. Here we are. So this, you remember do you remember when you were in school, like, or traveling? I'll say I was, and I had these like clocks, like a clamshell clock, so it has a top and a bottom. And you can see the top and the bottom. Well, you know what I'm going to say next is these two are the same. Watch. See, I'll take this band of lightness and I'll put it on top of this whole thing. It's the same. And I'll remove the marching ants around it. And you see that they're the same shade. And it's because of the background. So now I'm going to show you some examples of different scenes in black and white. And I'm going to make a statement that understanding luminance is important because our perception of depth, three-dimensionality, and spatial organization are all carried by a part of our visual system that responds only to luminance differences and is insensitive to color. It's so important. I'm saying it 3 times. I said it once. This is twice. It's a big deal. All right. This is the interior of a train station in Berlin. And it's a 4-level train station. I was teaching in Berlin. I always arrive a couple of days early. I go around with a local photographer, find locations, the best places to photograph, and also, of course, more importantly, the best places to eat. But I digress. The thing is, you're not allowed to photograph in train stations. You're not allowed to photograph in a lot of places these days, which is very sad. But so what I do is I look around for where the guards are and what their patterns are. I'm sitting on a bench. I get out my camera. I put it on a tripod. I don't extend the legs. I walk up to the edge of where I decided where the photograph's going to be, the focal length, the whole thing. I know what I'm going to do. I quickly pull out the legs, put it down, focus the camera, and click. And by that time, somebody's by me saying, "Can I help you?" Which is meaning the next thing is going to be you have to leave or something, or you can't do that. So in any event, I got the picture. Here it is, black and white, sensing depth through luminance. Okay, I'm happy with that. Color's not bad either. I love color. I told you that to begin with, but you can do some amazing things in black and white. This is Edward Weston. You've seen this picture, perception of depth, three-dimensionality, spatial organization. Look at that. You know, that's where I said you can taste it. Literally, you can taste this. This is an amazing picture from Gregory Heisler. This is great. It wouldn't be the same in color. You wouldn't get that sense of depth, three-dimensionality, spatial organization. I don't know this fellow, Peter Knight, but this is another good example. Look at his hands. Look at his face. The textures. Quite cool, quite neat. Here's one from Trevor Cole. This is Tree Line Street, but what a great one. Oh my goodness. Ansel Adams, right? I don't have to keep saying it, but you just have to appreciate why these are so fantastic. I will tell you on this one again. I started with saying I could taste the cloud and I could taste the pepper. Now I can taste the tools, which sounds gross, but the point is it means, oh my God, I can reach out and touch these things. It's really, really awesome. Okay, I'm going to show you an image that I made in Cuba again. This is a guy walking down the lane. What I do for lunch is I find a place where I'm outside and I'm looking at a scene. So I'm looking for a stage set and I'm waiting for somebody to come on stage. That's the best way to describe it. That's for street photography, okay? You don't run after animals if you're photographing wildlife. You find their corridors of movement, you find an awesome backdrop, awesome background, and you have to be patient, okay? So in this case, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. I see this guy walking toward me, and I see he's got I look at his shirt and I look at the wall. I look at his hair color. I look at the wall. I look at his pants color. I look at the wall. I look at his skin color. I look at the wall. This guy is like at one with the wall. He blends well with the wall. Now that's color. And that was taken a few years ago. And a couple of years ago, I decided, oh, let's try this. Let's try this in black and white. So look at his face and look at the wall behind him. You see the texture? Can you see the three-dimensionality? Hey, this is fantastic. Now I know I get excited and I hope I'm not driving you guys crazy, but it makes a difference. It's subtle. It's not like hit you in the head, but there's a serious difference. This is why black and white, I'm understanding, is so fantastic. So I'm on top of a building. I gave the guy a tip to get to the top of the roof. And I'm looking at the scene here, and this is old Havana, okay? And I made this photograph and I'm thinking, this is going to be awesome in color. I mean, excuse me, it's going to be awesome in black and white because look at all the color variations, okay? So then I turned it into black and white and I went, it's kind of meh, like that did not do it for me. Then I found another photo I took because I waited through dusk, or not through the golden hour to dusk. And it wasn't the dusk that I was hoping for, but I got this photograph. And at the time I thought, well, this is kind of blah. I'd much rather show the one in color that I showed you. How about I'll make this black and white? And this one, whoa, this now got much better in black and white than when it was in color. Couple more here, or a few more. I'm photographing buildings that are disintegrating, I'm sorry to say, but look at the texture underneath the walkway on the left and right that are up in the air, and look what happens in black and white. There's a difference. There's a difference. How about if I look straight up, and again, look at the texture of these walkways are disintegrating. And there's a lady here watching me, and she said, don't go out, don't walk on that, she said. That was nice of her. In any event, here it is in black and white. See how gritty it gets. Yeah. This is a hotel in Prague, the Czech Republic. Really cool staircase. I just got under it and looked straight up and made the photo in color. I thought, I'm happy. Then I thought, whoa, how about black and white? Well, you know what? I like the black and white better. The color, it was nice, I thought, but wow, I just love the variations in tones in this color image. Okay, here's an experiment I've been playing with recently. This is very recently. Here's another photograph in Cuba. And it's a high contrast scene, all that good stuff. I'm happy with the image. There's even a peacock here, although I couldn't get him to like put out his feathers. He didn't see me as an appropriate mate, I think that's why, or she. But the point is, I think I'm going to convert it first. Oh, pure color, no luminance. Not that exciting. Here is the black and white. Okay. Now, yeah, I like the black and white, but I thought to myself, what if luminance is so good, why can't I enhance the luminance in a color image and make it better by adding luminance of black and white? How would that work? So what I did was I took the black and white image, this one you're looking at, and I layered the color image on top of it. Okay. Then I reduced the opacity of the color image about 50%. And here's what I got. Here's the color, first the color, and then here is color with added luminance, using that crazy system I came up with. Now, you may not see a huge difference, but I'm going to A-B it. I'm going to put it on the same plane. So on the left is the pure color, color with luminance, the color image. The one on the right is black and white with color overlaid. So I'm infusing luminance into it. So now look at the ground plane. Look at the ground on the left. Look at the ground on the right. You can see more detail. Look at the column. Look how crunchy it looks on the right and how it's a little smoother on the left. Look at the wall here on the left and look at the wall here. So there's a definite difference. You don't have to like any of this, but I want to show you there's a difference. And if you think that it may trigger something in you, like, yeah, like, well, maybe there is a reason to use black and white other than just what I mentioned, like to make it look old. I mean, it is old. Look at the light fixture. See how this light fixture is different than this one? They're close. This one is popping out more. This one has on the right is more presence. Okay. It's my value judgment. So when is a good time to use black and white? When is a good time? Well, backlit silhouettes. Definitely a good opportunity, great opportunity for black and white. Contrasting light, where you're on sometimes bright sunny days, people think, oh, it's great. It's going to be great for photography. You know what? It's some of the toughest conditions on a bright sunny day. So contrasting light, great for black and white. These are photographs I've made. This is in Vancouver. This one is in Yosemite National Park. Graphic highlights. That's where you can also take advantage of black and white, in my opinion. I made this in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is where they used to make submarines. It's closed down and it's very drab and run down, but in black and white, I think it has more presence. Okay. So when there's kind of a drab or dull color, black and white can be a great solution. Any of you shoot infrared using infrared sensors or infrared filters? It can be awesome. Chlorophyll goes white. So where you have lots of greenery, it's going to go white. And that's kind of cool. So that's an example of what also when black and white makes a lot of sense, because you can also photograph infrared in color, a mix of color and infrared spectrum, but black and white can be super. Skyscapes, for sure. Skyscapes. This is Denali National Park, where I was for this scene. And well, this one is one that I took in Vancouver. It's a part of a project I designed. It's this is a vignette, right? This is just a piece of it, but I'm trying to embrace textural detail. But it's quite an expansive picture. So I'm going to start to zoom out of this thing. I don't know who this is coming across. It might be a little jerky. I apologize, but that if that's the case. But so there's the stairway. Now we're going to move up to the higher part of the photo. And these are a series of towers and a park space along the waterfront in Vancouver. Now I'll show you the whole image, but it reads really well in black and white, you know? Yeah. There's a lot of color. There's almost too much color in the different buildings, but I just think black and white kind of ties it all together, as if each building is kind of a piece of sculpture. The brain interprets differences in luminance values as depth and indicates three-dimensionality. This interpretation takes place in the color-blind part of our brain and is therefore not color related. That's again Margaret Livingstone quoting. This is an article talking about a two-skill process, or that's what we say. It's process. Sorry about that. There are two essential skills you must develop to become great at black and white photography. The first is learning to see, to identify a great black and white subject. Okay, as I'm telling you, it's not easy to do, at least for me. Some subjects demand to be rendered in color, and others scream for black and white treatment. The second skill is taking the necessary and precise steps to convert a color image into black and white. Yes, some cameras allow you to originate your picture in black and white. However, that's not recommended. You have given up control over how the colored hues will be rendered into shades of gray. There's a recent post on better black and white photography. It's a black and white photography guide. Just April of 2023, just almost a year ago. So here's the conclusion. I'm getting to the conclusion. Okay. This is a infrared photograph that I made of this lady, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use part of her as a backdrop. Contrast is a really important word. Contrasting tones, contrasting textures, contrasting space. And I heard you guys talking about positive versus negative space, and contrasting color. They can work together, all right? Tonal contrast, all right? Tonal contrast means there can be tonal variations between darker and lighter areas. And if we look at Lightroom as a typical, although very good, software program, or Adobe Camera Raw filter in Photoshop, all of these elements involve contrast. There's one called contrast. Now, if they were all called contrast, it would be even more confusing than it already is. But contrast, clarity, dehaze, texture, highlights, shadows, blacks, whites, lights, darks, and the tone curve, and sharpening. All of them involve contrast. That's important. As such, they all involve playing with luminance, because we see contrast through luminance. So here's the thing. There's low contrast, there's high contrast. Low contrast is more subtle. High contrast is more dramatic. This is not rocket science, right? This picture I've got on the right has a bit of both. There's some very low contrast in her skin, and there's some higher contrast in her hair. Okay. You know, in our eyes, you probably learned this in school, but I forgot most of what I learned in school already. So I'm going to give it to you again. In our eyes, we have cones and we have rods. Cones see color. There are 6 million cones in each eye. That's a lot. I didn't count them myself. I believe the science books I've been reading, okay? There are, in rods, only see tone. There are 120 million rods in each eye. You know what that means? That means our eyes are 20 times more sensitive to light than to color. That alone should clue you in to say, son of a gun. 20 times more sensitive to light, which basically that's what black and white is. It's just all light only without color. That's powerful stuff. Seriously. I'm gonna stop here, briefly tell you that I love giving presentations. I would love to be invited back one day, maybe, and there's a lot of great people out there. Okay, so I appreciate you have tons of choices, but I love teaching waterfront cityscape photography. I love teaching about the power of symmetry in photography and the power and benefits of an image series, and I include in that creativity. How can you be inspired to be creative? What does it mean to be creative? Why are you creative, whether you know it or not? You can be creative. I've given a presentation to you already on architectural photography a couple years ago, I think. I have one on urban street photography that's taking pictures of people in candid situations, especially for people that are shy, okay, for shy photographers. The Lure of Luminance, which I talked about tonight, complexity and contradiction and confusion of color, because it's really complex. If you think black and white was getting complex, color is amazing, and I love color, I admitted that, but I have a talk on that. And then 4 different talks on travel photography, everything from Antarctica to Portugal to the Czech Republic to Havana, Cuba. And the one that is the most popular these days, believe it or not, is the impacts of artificial intelligence in photography. And I borrowed the title from a 1966 Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, because relative to artificial intelligence in photography, there is good and there is bad, and there is, unfortunately, some ugly stuff. So thank you so much for being so patient. I got through this more quickly than I expected. So we have time for questions. So what I have to do is stop sharing and hope that there's still a few people here. Okay, there seem to be. Okay, guys, do you have any, you can make comments, you can push back on what I say. You don't have to agree with what I said. And you can ask questions. You can ask me anything. In fact, at my age, you can ask me anything. Usually I say, you need to ask me a question about photography. You can ask me anything.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mark,
I have a camera. I always shoot raw.
good.
I have a camera. I can arrange for the viewfinder to be black and white.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, even though that's not going to be the final image by no means,
Right.
it might help me see luminance, do you think?
Absolutely. That's a good way. That's one good way. I suggest you try that, use that for a while, right? And then see if, what you could do in some cases is take the same scene with that viewfinder in black and white and in color, and they will definitely look the same, but it should be if you guessed right, that you thought, oh yeah, this could be great in black and white. So it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
I have a question as well.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Have you used about the Radon filters? I believe it's Radon 89 or Radon 90.
For infrared?
No. So I believe Vincent Adams used to use this thing. So it's kind of like an amber filter that you put in front of your eye, and it removes color and allows you to see luminance a little bit clearer, though.
You could try that. I obviously, with my reaction, it's been a long time since I even used one. I forgot about it actually. That could be possible. I don't normally advise that would be a good solution, but it's worthwhile trying it. Some people object when I say you should play, like somehow it's not professional enough. Play means research, analysis, experimentation. Yeah, try it. And it might be good, but I actually have not run across anybody so far that recommends that for black and white previewing, I guess we'll call it, or a solution.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Yes, focus.
Yeah, I'm somewhat in focus.
Sorry, I'm reading the names on the thing.
Yeah, that's okay. Sorry. In Lightroom, you've
Yeah.
got all the sliders and you've listed them out for us. Do you know of any good source that defines what each slider is actually changing in terms of, is it pixels within a certain tonal range? Is it, masking and sharpening? It's changing the pixels along the edges of sharp lines, that sort of thing. Because playing with them is one thing, but getting that extra dimension of understanding is also at least desirable.
I don't have right offhand. I can't give you a like a resource.
Okay. Worries. If I find one, I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be great. Or do you know? Have you heard of Matt Kleskowski?
Yeah.
He might know.
Okay.
But he's my go-to guy for Lightroom. My go-to guy for Photoshop is F64. What's his name?
I can look them up also.
It's F/64.
64, right.
Blake Rudis. Blake Rudis. He's a great teacher. Both of these guys are excellent teachers, and they would know.
Okay.
I think they're going to kind of tell you what I'm going to tell you now. I may be wrong. There's no substitute for taking every slider and moving it all the way to the left and all the way to the right. I know
agree.
you may think, oh my God, that's too tedious. And I mean every slider, because a lot of people just use the basic panel and don't use much else.
Yeah.
But you need to push the boundaries to discover.
I since your last presentation to this group, where you talked about editing in Lightroom and so on, and pushing those sliders to the extreme,
Yeah.
I'm doing it more and more, which has been helpful because you see the effect. But I'm curious as to what is it actually changing, other than visually what I can see. So I can reach that and.
Okay, it's possible that Adobe will have a manual that will tell you some of that. The company Adobe. Yeah, that's who I would look. I would suggest then check with them.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to comment on, Rick, you had that list of two-dimensional arts at the beginning.
Oh yeah, you have another one?
I'll throw it out there. You can
Sure.
may reject
Absolutely.
it, but I think there's also digital art.
Okay, yes, like computer art,
Yes.
digital art. I buy that. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess I could throw into that now artificial intelligence art. Art prompted by texts, which is very controversial, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Right. Oh my
Yes.
God. Fights
crossing a line.
break out of it. I don't know how it's with you guys, but most clubs in Canada, if it's a national competition, you can't use text prompts or generative AI means that you're coming up with something that doesn't exist, and that's kind of a no-no in photography, because the whole idea is you're capturing light on light sensitive media like film or digital.
Yeah, we pretty much decided that last year. We added that to our competition rules that, a generative AI image would not be accepted in our competition. I mean, it's called Focus Camera Club. We got to stick with that,
Oh, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm just
I mean, we don't care about editing. If you start with a image out of a camera and you use some, basically AI in Photoshop has been around for a long time, as long as the clone stamp has been around and things like that. That's a form of AI. It's gotten a lot more sophisticated now, of course, but
well, the reason that the clone stamp or even other tools that are AI, they're taking pixels that you captured and kind of moving them around or playing with them.
Right.
That's different than inventing pixels that never existed in your image at all.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I think that the generative AI is an art form that, may not be sanctioned by, Canadian
Oh,
national
I agree.
camera clubs, but I think it's going to grow as an art form, and it will have its own legitimacy if it
I'm
doesn't
going to
work.
add that. I'm going to add I appreciate that. You know what? You're the first guy in like a few years that came up with something for me. That's good. Thank you very much.
And David, I will put my stamp of approval also on Matt Kloskowski. He is
Yes.
a Lightroom wizard. I mean, he knows everything about it. He does have some training courses, but he gives away a lot of free information either on his YouTube channel or on his website, mattk.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been following him for years and years and years, and the guy really knows his stuff about Lightroom. And he's an excellent teacher too.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Rick, this is Jerry. I had a question for you. So
Sure.
I was looking at your photo gallery the other day and your color pictures, many of which have a lot of depth in them, which indicates that I think that you've paid a lot of attention to luminance in them. Do you typically, well, going back to the example you gave of going from color to a black and white, and then back to adding color with, lowered
Yeah.
opacity.
Yeah.
Do you do that same process with full saturation for your other pictures, or on your color pictures, or are you just doing the luminance by eye?
Well, the notion of mixing or layering the luminance to try to enhance luminance in a color scene, I just kind of came up with that. You guys are getting kind of a preview of that idea. And the only people I've really shared it with is when I was last year I was teaching a course, and I had some people got all excited, others thought, yeah, that's crazy, too much work. But no, I'm still experimenting. So I'm trying to do what I teach, like try stuff. If you're not failing periodically at photography, you're not learning. You're not trying hard enough. Failure sounds terrible, but it's part of the learning experience. It's important.
All right, thanks for that.
Sure. Sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but I haven't really done anything of late that I can add to what I've shown you. Although it's, I think, potentially really cool. The reason my color images have a sense of depth is because the definition of photography for me is an envelope for human activity, and the envelopes are three-dimensional spaces. They're volumetric spaces. And I'm trying to show three-dimensional scenes, like building interiors for sure, or even streets as an example. I want to show a three-dimensional scene on a two-dimensional canvas, which is the photo, right? So yes, by the way, I'm a lover of wide angle lenses. I admit that. I have GAS. You know what that is? That's gear acquisition syndrome. So I have enough toys now. I'm just, what can I say?
It's an affliction for many of us. Don't worry.
Yeah. So guys, here's the thing. Some of you might come up with questions in the future, even like tomorrow morning. So I have a policy where if you sat through one of my talks, you can send me an email, and you can ask me a question. I will respond. And if I don't have the answer, I'll try to either get the answer or I'll just be honest. I mean, I am brutally honest. That's where I am these days.
Appreciate that.
Anybody else? Don't be shy. I look scary, but I'm just a teddy bear.
I just want to say, Rick, that I just realized looking back at my notes on previous focus presentations that you gave one last year in August that I had made a lot of notes on and in fact really loved, and the same goes for this one. And so that's obviously a thing that you have that effect on me, as I really love your presentations. So
Thanks, Kyle. No, I appreciate that. You know, some people the reason I put the words on the slides too is because people have different methodologies of learning. Some people learn more by looking at words, and some people learn more by looking at images. Some people learn more by just hearing things. So I figured it's all three at once. Hopefully, they get something out of it.
yeah, I sure do and have.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, I think we will call it an evening. And I want to thank you, Rick, for another great presentation to us. So one last call, but also remember Rick's kind offer to answer emails and postcards, I suppose.
Sure.
And I
Rick?
just popped Rick's email address in the chat there. So if you want to
Thank you.
jot it down or do a quick copy and paste, you can grab it.
Yeah.
It's also at the end of the video.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to repeat, I would urge you, if you enjoyed the images he presented tonight, to go on his website and look at his galleries, because there are really some exceptional color photos there. Rick is an excellent photographer. So consider that more inspiration.
Well, that's very nice. Thanks for the clap, Steve. So the only thing I wish is that my kids were here so they could see that I actually do stuff. Because, you know, it's like, oh, Dad, what do you know? Anyway, that's another story.
My experience, they never notice it anyways.
No, they never will. That's okay. I'm just musing with you guys, you know.
Hey, Rick, I want to say thank you.
Okay.
I enjoyed the dose of science and understanding a little bit more about how the eye looks at things and detects. Because that's a really important part of, I think, image creation and how we, need to rethink how we do it. I also like your technique of merging the black and white and the half opacity.
Try it, yeah. See if
try that.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely an interesting methodology. But thank you again, sir, for a marvelous presentation. I do appreciate you taking the time to
My pleasure.
Spread your knowledge with us and give us a new way to look at the world as we're out there shooting and considering what makes a great black and white image.
Awesome. Okay. So don't stay up too late. I hope you have hope those of you who drove, I hope you have a good ride home. Can I say?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Drive safe home, people. For those of you at Lone Tree. Appreciate you coming out tonight, though. All right, everybody wave goodbye.
Okay. Thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Goodbye.
Thank you all for a great evening.